This is the basketball show. What they gonna say next?
Hey guys, we're back for another episode of the basketball show brought to you by TCL Mobile and News Corp. I'm Jo Healy and this, of course, is Shane Hill. Hammer, good to see you. Is there anything that you've seen this week that you've liked?
The Jazz.
Yep.
You've got to love the Jazz. They won 11 in a row and then they lost a game and they've won 4 straight.
They're absolutely killing it, aren't they? We are very excited as well to say that their Aussie owner, Mike Cannon-Brookes, will join us on the show. Great to pick his brains. Looking forward to hearing from him. Let's get into the show, though, with our stroke of the week. It's Jack White.
Jack White. And I tell you, I reckon there'll be a lot of people that'll say, I'm not with you on this one, Hammer. I'm not with you, because I'm saying that he will be Rookie of the Year. And
really?
I've been all over Josh Giddey. I love him. He's going to have a great NBA career. He'll play for Australia and everything else. But, you know, he's probably 4 years younger than what Jack White is. Jack White has been exceptional with his numbers and what he's been able to do. And I'm going to double down and go one step further. Not only will he be Rookie of the Year, he should be Defensive Player of the Year.
That's a big shout.
You have a look at what he's done. I saw him yesterday. He switched on to Bryce Cotton, and he can stay in front of any guard in the competition. He moves his feet so well, doesn't fall for fakes. He's averaging 2.6 blocks a game. He can defend anyone 1 through 4 at least, potentially 5s as well. Just so mobile, athletic, great all-round player. And people will say, well, what about Simon from the Hawks? And really good player. Doesn't have the same sort of blocks, probably more steals. But I was watching him yesterday against South East Melbourne and someone up-faked him. He jumped out of his shoes. They drove straight past, drive and dish. It was a 3-point shot. You don't see that with Jack White. He's just a smart player, being well coached, and he's been exceptional for Melbourne United. So I expect to probably get bombarded with a couple of those things, but I stand by it.
Do you know, I'm with you there, actually. I'm a big Jack White. I'm a Jack White fan. He's been really good, especially, as you say, off the ball. That rebound with a couple of seconds to go yesterday, essentially sealing the game, was excellent. He's so athletic.
He's pick and roll defence. He can, like I said, he can switch on to anybody. Just outstanding, and that's what makes Melbourne so good and happy to play a role.
You mentioned the Hawks there. I just want to ask you as well, what did you think of them? They lost their first game of the season. It felt like they were just trying to force it a little bit too much, didn't it?
I felt like they'd lost their pop. All Brian Goorjian coach teams, it takes a lot of energy to get going. You could see they were frothing at the mouth against Cairns and Brisbane, but it takes a fair bit to be able to keep that up. It was the first time we've seen them lose that enthusiasm and that pop. They got punched in the mouth by South East Melbourne, who came out and did what the Hawks had done to everybody else and didn't have any answers, but I expect them to bounce back pretty hard.
This is the Starting Five, brought to you by TCL Plex smartphones.
The NBA All-Stars game is next month. Voting has begun, obviously. LeBron James. Okay, we know you don't really care, but it seems like LeBron James doesn't this year either. They were told that they didn't have to play this year, given their short off-season, given all the games that they're having to catch up on because of COVID. He is absolutely seething that they now have to play.
Pretty much a kind of a slap in the face. And, you know, we're also still dealing with a pandemic. We're still dealing with everything that's been going on. And we're going to bring the whole league into one city that's open. So, you know, obviously the pandemic has absolutely nothing to do with it at this point when it comes to that weekend. Obviously you guys can see I'm not very happy about it, but it's out of my hands.
Who even put this on the run sheet?
Me and Director Dave.
I cannot stand the All-Star game in the NBA. I can't remember watching one for so long. It is so boring. I have no care in the world about it, whether LeBron plays or he doesn't play. It's boring.
Well, how detrimental is it to the league? Okay, your superstar, the King, LeBron James, comes out and says, I'll be there physically, but mentally, I will not be there.
That's how they all are anyway. Have you watched the game? No one's there mentally. They're there to party over 3 days. It's Matador defence. No one cares. No one's trying. It's fluff.
All right, fair enough. We'll move on. Speaking of ropeable NBA players.
I'm not angry at you, Jo. Sorry.
Right, not taking it personally.
Okay,
ropeable NBA players. KD was pulled from their game against the Raptors twice due to COVID protocols. I want to know how the best league in the world doesn't have a better procedure for dealing with COVID. It makes no sense.
Well, I think we're all for the protocols. We want to have great protocols to be able to protect everybody involved around the world, not just in basketball, but talk about a contradiction. I mean, you go into the game, you're defending someone, you're bumping, you're holding, you're blocking, and then you go off and you've got to put a mask on and you sit 1.5 meters apart. Are they just ticking boxes?
They're clearly doing it for just to...
Political correctness.
Yeah.
They're ticking the boxes to say, yeah, we've got a
broadcast.
protocol. But it's rubbish. It's got holes in it.
Yeah,
It doesn't work.
Massive issues over there in the States, though. We're very lucky here to be in the situation that we are.
Sounded very grumpy today. We got anything?
You are, aren't you?
Yeah.
Good story. Paddy Mills is doing wonderful things off the court.
There we go.
With Indigenous Basketball Australia now having the support of the NBA. He's just leading by example to create these opportunities and make lives better, isn't he?
Well, Paddy's been a great role model across the board. You know, what he's doing with the Indigenous community that he's so passionate about is outstanding, but he has been a great role model for a long, long time. Now he's in a position to be able to help so many people. And you can't help but think that imagine if he was a politician making some decisions back in Australia when he retires, would have some good things happening. And so everyone should jump on board with that. Great the NBA's got involved.
I feel like he needs to. Paddy Mills for Prime Minister.
Oh, he could do it.
Yeah, definitely.
We'd definitely get good funding for basketball.
That'd be great. Let's talk about LaMelo Ball. He had his career high last week. He only went and trumped that again with 34 points and 8 assists or something like that. He's absolutely killing it. Did you expect him to have these numbers so early on?
No, we spoke about it. We said he was going to be up and down. He'd have some great games. He'll have some bad games. That's probably happened, but 34 points and 8 assists. He took 27 field goal attempts, and I respect him for that as well. That he had a fair crack at it. But, his athleticism, his ability to be able to bring people in the game. But, he shot 4 from 9 from threes, which has been good. He's up and down with his threes, as we knew he would be. But he's impressive. He's so good and great for the NBL that people are looking at him and now looking at, like we spoke about last week, with guys like Josh Giddey.
Yeah, it's excellent, creating that
Superstar.
pathway between the two leagues. Steph Curry, we all know how good he is. It feels like he's not human sometimes, literally, with the stuff that he's pulling out. But he needs good teammates around him. Talk to me about Draymond Green.
Is Draymond Green the best role player in the competition or what? Talk about a superstar that doesn't need to score. He had 2 points yesterday. He had 15 assists, 6 rebounds, 6 steals, and 4 blocks. Like, absolutely incredible, the little things. That doesn't count, obviously, how many screens he sets and all the little things and the hockey assists.
It's
and
the hype
else.
as well. I love his hype.
Yeah, keeping people accountable. I love Draymond. Love him.
Did you play with anyone who was like that in your time?
Yeah, guys like Warwick Giddey was a great role player. Played with him in the Australian junior team. Guys like Robert Sibley, Shane Froling, guys like that weren't always just about the points. And if you were down, they were the sort of guys that would come up and say, mate, we're going to run this play the next time. I'm going to take your man out and get you going. They just think for other players and make scorers' roles easier.
All right, let's move on. It's time for our new favourite segment. It's Points Made. All right, guys, the fans absolutely loved this segment last week. We've got to bring the people what they want. Hammer up against Derek Rucker. D-Ruck, I'll come to you first. If you could choose one NBL player to build a team around, who would it be?
A few weeks ago, Joe, I talked about this on a preseason game, and I had it as Mitch Creek. I thought he was the ideal player to start with, but I've changed now. The beginning of the season has led me to believe that the number one man is Jock Landale. There's no question in my mind. He's one of the most balanced bigs we've seen in NBL history. He can shoot it. He can pass it. He makes good decisions. And the most important thing, Shane, is he's low maintenance offensively. He figures out a way to have an impact on a game.
All right, D-Ruck says Jock Landale. Hammer, what have you got?
Well, I'm sorry to say, but I'm actually with you. I'm going with Jock as well. I am. And, a lot of people out there will say, well, what about Bryce Cotton? Bryce Cotton's the best player in the league, most dynamic player in the league. But you want to go with an Australian and a big Australian that you can build a team around. And Landale, from a defensive perspective on the pick and rolls, man-to-man, he can rebound, smart, great passer, he can score as well. He is a level above, and I wouldn't be like an owner was to you back in the day. Derek will say, you're a dime a dozen. There's thousands of guys in America can do what you can do. I wouldn't be like that.
Brilliant. Well, there you go, Hammer. If Jock keeps playing the way he is, you're going to be looking like D-Ruck by the end of the season if they keep winning.
What's that?
You're
What do you
shaving
mean?
your head if they keep winning.
Oh, yeah, they could. Oh, gee, they could too.
You forgot about that already.
Well, they're not winning at all. I mean, they're going to win the championship, but they're not going undefeated.
All right, let's move on. Hammer, coming to you first. Should players' salaries or overall team spend be made public before the season?
Well, for me, the main one is the team salaries should be made public. And I think, coaching a low-budget team and then seeing other teams that are spending 2 and 3 times the amount, the fans need to know how much is being spent so they can be judged accordingly. If the players' salaries were made public, I'd like to see it, but I don't care about it as much. To me, it's not as important as the team salaries. And I think that would be making it very interesting as the season starts.
D-Ruck, make your point.
I kind of agree, but my perspective is different. Here in the media, Shane, we want to be able to hold players accountable. And you know what? It's like if a player is only making, say, $100,000 and he's getting 5 points a game, and a player is making $300,000 and he's getting 7 points a game, I'm holding that guy making more money accountable. It's just like on this show. I make nothing and you make all the big money, but yet I'm pulling my weight more so.
There you go. Love that, D-Ruck. That's awesome. All right, coming back to you. We are 4 rounds in. Who is your top 4 based on what you've seen so far?
This is tough. I'm really struggling with this one. And a lot of it is based on the fact that Perth do not have the advantage of playing in the jungle. They've got to play a lot of games coming up away in Melbourne in the NBL Cup. Right now, I have Melbourne as my number 1 team. After this, I don't know. But I'm going to put Perth in my top 4. I'm going with the Hawks, despite yesterday's performance against the Phoenix. And then I'm going with Sydney to just edge out Southeast Melbourne.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about with Perth because they're all going to play home and away. It's just going to happen at different times. But I'm going to go with Melbourne because I think they win it all. They're a class above and they've got more depth than any other team in the competition. I'm going to go with the Hawks. Even though they stubbed their toe a little bit yesterday, I think the Brian Goorjian factor will get them into the top 4. And then I'm going New Zealand. New Zealand are going to play themselves into form. They've got some of the best local talent. The Kiwis, the Tall Blacks, will be able to get it done. Patterson will get fit and they will be good to go. And my 4th team is Southeast Melbourne. I think with their locals as well, they will be good to go.
Love that, gents. Only 2 answers the same there. I think we'll try and keep you accountable and see what happens come the end of the season.
Oh, we're going to keep looking at that top 4. Don't worry about that, especially on Derek's.
Yeah, D-Ruck, sorry, I think I've got to say I'm probably leaning more Hammer's way in terms of my top 4 as well.
Joe, I'm used to women being against me. Don't worry about it.
All right, thank you so much. We'll chat to you again next week. Well, it's time now for our NBA Aussie Watch. Hammer, we talked about what Paddy Mills is doing off the court earlier. On the court, he's just overtaken Andrew Bogut for the most games that an Aussie has played in the NBA. Is he staking his claim for our greatest export?
Well, he's got to be in the conversation, doesn't it? I hate separating what he's done versus Andrew Bogut, who he passed, and then down to Luke Longley, at 100 games and however many championships. The good thing about all these 3 guys, they're not just playing, they've all won championships, right? Incredible stuff. And to think where Paddy came from, out of going to college and then sort of just finding his way, whether he was going to break in, to be able to have this sort of career is absolutely incredible.
And especially this season as well, he's really having an impact out on the court. He's just doing normal Paddy things that we know he does so well, but he's doing some really exciting stuff as well. I love
Paddy
it.
mindset. That's what he said. Totally different, just really aggressive. And it's helping them.
He's excited for this year and for Tokyo, that's for sure. Matthew Dellavedova, there's been reports that he's been considering retirement because of his concussion symptoms. Thankfully, for basketball fans, he's shut down those reports.
Well, yeah, it sounds more like that it was just speculation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
People sort of speculating maybe that's going to be the case. We hope he's all right, but him coming out and saying, no sirree, and that's in Delly's makeup. He's so tough. Delly is one of the best guys to be around, of his personality, his DNA, his team-first mentality. Had a bit to do with him with the national team, and he will still play a big role come the Olympics. I was so glad to hear that he's still going to play for Australia because that role is going to be critical, and his leadership role of setting a culture as well is really impressive. So good luck to him in his recovery, and I hope he gets back soon.
Well, it's time now for our very special guest. It's a Basketball Show exclusive. Atlassian's co-founder and Utah's Australian minority owner, Mike Cannon-Brookes.
Well, Mike, great to have you on. Appreciate you coming in. Basketball exclusive. Now, you're the only Aussie owner in the NBA. Let's face it, it's probably not going to be too many. And the youngest current owner in the NBA. How's that feel?
Mate, it's pretty much a dream come true.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, by the way. But look, it's been an epic 6-9 month ride now, and just loving every minute of it, to be honest.
How did it come about? Is this something you had a passion to be able to try and achieve, or?
Oh, look, I've always been into basketball.
Yeah.
Going to high school, in the late 90s, mid 90s was an amazing era, obviously, for basketball kind of coming of age, both in Australia and in the NBA. So, that was sort of where I grew up watching and getting addicted to watching basketball. Have done ever since, been to tons of games. And then fast forward to the last 12 to 24 months, a couple of us that are really good mates and have had a lot of luck in the rest of our lives, I guess you'd say. Maybe this is a chance, and then you get closer and you're like, oh, well, we're not going to play anymore, but maybe we can just have some fun and participate in the game. And it's been a wild ride, so it's been awesome.
And what sort of role do you play as an owner, minority owner of Utah Jazz, and what sort of fan are you when you're watching the games? How many do you get to see?
Oh, I tell you, it's up the stress level on watching the games quite a lot. I'll give you that. Knowing a bunch of the players and other things and the organisation, it's a phenomenal organisation, right? We have such a great organisation built by the prior owners over 35 years that, our job's just to keep fostering that. To be honest, we don't dribble, we don't shoot, we don't do anything on the court. Our job is much more to look at the long term. We're looking at the multi-decade kind of view. A good advantage, all three owners in the ownership group are 41, 42 and 43. So, we're looking at the 30-year view and saying, okay, what can we do over the long term and preserving the legacy of what's already there in the franchise. It's a pretty amazing franchise and we're just super pumped, but for sure it makes watching the games a lot more stressful. Right?
And obviously you only bought into the Jazz because there's an Aussie there, Joey Ingles.
Yeah, one of the best Aussies of all time, right?
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, no doubt about that.
He's gonna help us get to that Olympic medal, hopefully.
Yeah.
First medal of all time. So yeah, no, we're super pumped about that. He's an awesome bloke.
Yeah.
He's one of the heart and souls of the team for sure, and has been for a long time. Just hit the franchise record for threes, which is pretty good, beating John Stockton. So that's a pretty good one to put up on the mantelpiece. He's a legend. He's a good bloke.
Well, he learnt from the best. So now, your basketball, speaking of threes, you throw a few trifectas up. What level did you play at?
Oh, mate, not as well as you do by a couple of orders of magnitude. No, I played in high school and other things, and then social comps after that. We had a work team. My company had a team for a couple of years in some mixed evening co-op comps, still try to get that going. Just with a bunch of school dads at the moment, trying to organise a weekly pickup game. Other than that, it's just trying to coach my son. Yeah,
there you go. Well, and
ring on the garage.
He's just turned 10.
Just turned 10 this week. Yeah.
And so when he's playing in the backyard and you guys are shooting around, does he think he's Joe Ingles or an NBL player, NBA? Like, who does he visualise?
It's controversial inside the household. He does have a couple of Jingles jerseys.
Yeah,
he's a bit of a big fan. The fact that he's Australian, I guess. But like he likes Donovan pretty well. He's got the Donovan bobblehead. So look, if he turned out anywhere near as good as either of those, that'd be great. But if it's what he wants to do, he seems to enjoy it. He's passionate about it, and that's the most important part.
And how often are you going to get over there? I mean, COVID changes things, but you plan on being over there much? And
Mate, I'd love to. COVID changes that a lot, right? I mean, I in life used to be there 10 times a year, probably in the US.
Right. Yeah,
historically, for the last 15 years, kind of basically once a month, and haven't been there for a year, obviously, at this point. We'll see. Again, looking at the long-term view, at the moment it's FaceTime and Zoom and watching on League Pass. So, look, we'll get over there in time. But my wife's family is all over there. Nice. A lot of them in Salt Lake, so they get to really benefit, and it's a big family affair.
Perfect. It works for everybody. What about the NBL? You grew up in a time in the 90s when basketball was going crazy in Australia. Went through a bit of a lull, but Larry Kesselman's done a great job over the last 4 or 5 years. Where do you see the NBL, and is that something you'd look to get involved with?
I'm involved in basketball in general and a huge Australian fan, so never say never for sure. But look, what Larry seems to have done in the last 5 years is awesome, right? He's really kind of reinvigorated it, driving there. I think the connections to and from the US are really, really important. We see that with like LaMelo going over this year, owners in the NBL from the US. I always think about the more pathways there are from us to the NBA and back. Pioneered by people like yourself early in your career, bouncing back and forth, coaches going over, Will Weaver going over to the Rockets, the Next Star program. So the more of that, I think the better, right? And building those connections, all hopefully, you want the NBA to look at the NBL and say that's a great league where real players come from. I think it's got a fantastic future, to be honest.
Yeah, so great to hear from Mike there. Really awesome to be able to pick his brains. I feel like you could sit there and listen to him speak for ages and would absolutely love to go and have a beer with him.
Oh, no doubt about that. Well, I think we did. We sat in the studio for an hour just talking and picking his brain. So down to earth for, what he's been able to achieve and the role that he's got and all the rest of it. And grateful that he'll come in and give us our time like that.
Absolutely. Love seeing him so passionate about basketball and basketball here in Australia as well.
And the Jazz.
And the Jazz.
He's very confident.
He is.
Good.
He
we like that.
Watch this space. Time for our top 5 highlights of the week.
What do you got?
This was so...
Oliver Dunk?
This was... Don't get me started. This was really, really hard because there were so many great performances as a whole this week.
I feel like you're trying to justify things already. I haven't seen
as well as individual moments.
Okay.
Take a look. We're kicking off in the far north this week with things that you love to see. Lamar Patterson back in form.
Patterson.
Oh my goodness.
Who's arrived?
Hammer.
Big shot.
Let's hope he can continue to bring it for the Breakers. At number 4, no one could hold back Jack White as he got Melbourne United going against Perth.
He misses out and very quickly up the floor.
Now that is not easy to do, to be going that hard and still have the strength to explode up and stuff it in with 2 hands.
At 3, Casper Ware showed some of his vintage form against Adelaide. He dropped 27 points, including this dagger over DJ.
Bang! That is huge from Casper.
And just because I can, I'm going to let the tape roll here because Geordie Hunter's block on Isaac Humphries deserves a nod as well. We'll call it 3.2. At number 2, as he so often does, Bryce Cotton led the way for the Wildcats against United. They couldn't get over the line in the end, but the league MVP was doing MVP things.
Oh, again!
Wow, he got him with the double crossover.
This is extraordinary, the way how quickly the game has turned on the back of this man here.
And at number 1, Chris Goulding had the Midas touch against the Bullets. He hit 7 of 11 from deep and then capped his night with this.
Please, Chris.
Goulding finishes it off for Melbourne.
Look at the little swagger too.
4 wins from 4 starts.
All right, Hammer, before you say anything about Cam Oliver not being in there, he's on the short list of notable mentions. I just thought that Lamar Patterson and his performance as a whole against Cairns had to be up there as a whole.
What, Chris Goulding going number 1? You're not the biggest fan of Chris Goulding. How'd you do that?
He was, shut up. He was great against the Bullets.
He was very good.
He was
Great
very,
player.
very good. Yeah, excellent. Amazing shooting. Still proving that he's got it as well with the dunk as well.
Likes him a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And no, I'm a fan of Chris Goulding. All right. Justin Sider, Justin Simon, Uday Baba, Nathan Sobey, Ben Moore all had some massive defensive plays into offensive trans. And I thought Ty Webster and Mitch Creek were both pretty aggressive.
Yep.
So they're my notable mentions because that was really, really hard.
Southeast Melbourne. I'll give them a mention. They were great on the weekend.
They were.
Heads up for them. Well done. Kings on the road. That was good too.
Plenty more to come this week as well. Looking forward to the top of the table clash on Wednesday night.
Bring it on. And you at the Gong.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Debut.
Looking
the
forward to it.
NBL. Watch out.
Watch out. All right, that's all we've got time for here on The Basketball Show. We'll recap this next round next week.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.